The transport ship moved slowly through the dead space between three black stars. Its metal hull was thick and ugly, built only to carry the worst criminals in the galaxy to their final prison. Inside the ship, guards from different alien races watched over their prisoners with cold eyes. Warden Thex stood at the front of the transport, his green scales catching the dim light. He was tall and thin like all his people, the Vorthak, with yellow eyes that never showed mercy. For 20 years he had run Voidspire Station, the most feared prison in known space. No one had ever escaped from his prison. No one ever would. "Warden," said his assistant, a small blue creature with 4 arms. "The new prisoners are ready for transfer." Thex nodded and walked to the holding area. He knew each prisoner by their crimes. There was Brix, a huge warrior from the Kelthari race with 4 powerful arms locked up for destroying an entire moon. Next to him sat Park Dojin, a human with metal parts in his body caught smuggling weapons to rebel groups. Then came others, murderers, terrorists, war criminals from 12 different worlds. But when Thex reached the last cell, he stopped. Inside sat a small human girl, maybe 12 years old. She had black hair and dark eyes, and she looked very small in the big metal chair. Her name was Lee Hana, and she was the youngest prisoner ever sent to Voidspire Station. "This is wrong," Thex said to his assistant. "Children do not come to my prison. The courts say she is very dangerous, Warden. They say she broke into the Hegemony Defense Network and destroyed it. 17 worlds lost their protection because of her." Thex looked at the girl again. She was drawing something on the foggy window with her finger. Simple pictures of stars and ships. She did not look dangerous. She looked like any child who missed her home. "What does she say about her crime?" Thex asked. "She says she was trying to send a message to her brother. She says she did not mean to break anything." The transport ship came close to Voidspire Station, and Thex felt the familiar pull of gravity. The prison was built in the exact center of 3 dead stars. The gravity was so strong that no ship could escape once it got too close. The stars pulled everything toward them, crushing any ship that tried to leave. Voidspire Station was huge, made of black metal, and shaped like a giant cylinder. It spun slowly in space, creating fake gravity inside. The station had been built 847 years ago, and in all that time no prisoner had ever escaped. Some had tried. Their bodies still floated in space around the dead stars. "Look," Thex said to Hana through the cell door. "Do you see those stars? They are dead, but they still have power. They will hold you here forever. There is no escape from Voidspire Station." Hana looked up at him with curious eyes. "Why did they build a prison here?" "Because no one can leave. The gravity is too strong. But how do the guards leave?" Thex paused. It was a smart question. "We have special ships, and we are not prisoners." "Oh." Hana went back to drawing on the window. "The stars are pretty even if they are dead." The docking was rough. The transport ship shook as the station's machines grabbed it and pulled it inside. Through the walls they could hear the prison sounds, metal doors slamming, guards shouting orders, and the low hum of the power systems. When the doors opened, the prisoners were led out in chains. The inside of Voidspire Station was cold and gray. Long hallways stretched in all directions, with doors leading to thousands of cells. The air smelled like metal and fear. Other prisoners watched from behind their cell doors as the new group walked past. Most were alien races that Hana had never seen before. Some had too many eyes, others had no eyes at all. Some were made of energy instead of flesh. All of them looked dangerous. "Block 7, announced a guard. "Humans go to Block 7. Hana was separated from the alien prisoners and led down a different hallway. The human section of the prison was smaller, but just as cold. As they walked, other human prisoners came to their cell doors to look at the new arrivals. "Is that a kid?" someone whispered. "What did she do?" "She's so small." Hana was given a cell at the end of the hallway. It was tiny, with just a bed, a sink, and a toilet. The walls were thick metal with no windows. When the door closed, it made a sound like thunder. For the first time since her arrest, Hana was alone. She sat on the thin bed and looked around her new home. The cell was darker than her room back on Earth. It was quieter too, except for the constant hum of the station's machines. She thought about her brother Taewon, who was a soldier fighting in a war far away. She had tried to send him a message through the military network, but something went wrong. Instead of reaching her brother, her message had somehow broken the entire defense system. Now 17 worlds were in danger, and she was in the worst prison in the galaxy. Down the hallway, she could hear other prisoners talking. "New meat in 7, said one voice. "Did you see the kid? What kind of monster sends a child here? Maybe she's not really a child. Maybe she's one of those aliens that looks young but is really old. She's human, I can tell." A face appeared at Hana's cell door. It belonged to an older human man with gray hair and sad eyes. "Hey kid," he said softly. "I'm Yoon Seokman. I used to be a ship captain before they locked me up." "What's your name?" "Lee Hana," she replied. "That's a pretty name." "How old are you, Hana?" 12. Seokman was quiet for a long moment. "What did they say you did?" "They said I broke the defense network, but I was just trying to talk to my brother." "I believe you," Seokman said. "Sometimes the computer systems do things we don't expect. It's not always our fault." Hana felt better knowing that someone believed her. "Have you been here long?" 7 years. I was caught stealing cargo ships. But really, I was just trying to feed my family." "Do you miss them?" "Every day." That night, Hana lay on her bed and listened to the sounds of the prison. Somewhere in the distance, she could hear alien voices speaking in languages she did not know. Metal doors opened and closed. Guards walked through the hallways with heavy boots. She thought about the 3 dead stars outside, holding the prison in their invisible grip. She thought about her brother, probably wondering where she was. She thought about the 17 worlds that were now in danger because of her mistake. But mostly she thought about the question she had asked Warden Thex. How do the guards leave? If the gravity was too strong for prisoners to escape, how did anyone get in or out? There had to be a way. There was always a way. As she fell asleep, Hana started to plan. She might be the youngest prisoner in Voidspire Station, but she was still human. And humans were good at solving problems that seemed impossible. Outside her tiny window, the 3 dead stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that their newest prisoner was already thinking about how to break free from their grip. Hana woke up to the sound of sirens. Red lights flashed in her cell and a loud voice spoke through speakers in the walls. "All prisoners report to the main hall for breakfast. You have 15 minutes. The cell door opened with a heavy click. Hana stepped into the hallway and saw other human prisoners walking toward the main area. They all wore the same gray clothes and had numbers on their chests. Hana's number was 47291. The main hall was huge, with tables and chairs for hundreds of prisoners. But humans sat in one area, while different alien races sat in their own sections. No one mixed with other species. Hana got her food from a machine and looked for a place to sit. The other humans stared at her as she walked by. She sat at an empty table near the back. "You shouldn't sit alone," said a voice behind her. Hana turned and saw a woman with short black hair and tired eyes. "I'm Song Moran. You're the kid everyone's talking about." "I'm Hana." Moran sat down next to her. "Listen, kid. This place is dangerous. You need to stay close to the human section and don't talk to the aliens. Some of them eat humans." "Really?" "Really. I used to run a big company before they put me here. I know how to read people, and most of these creatures are not people you want to meet." Another human joined them. He was tall and thin with metal scars on his arms. "I'm Choi Jiho," he said. "I used to build weapons for the Earth military. What they say you did, breaking the defense network, that's impossible for a kid." "But I did break it," Hana said. "I was trying to reach my brother and something went wrong." Jiho looked surprised. "You actually got into the military network? How?" "I found a back door in the communication system. It wasn't protected very well. That's actually very smart," Jiho said slowly. "Most adults couldn't find those back doors." From across the hall, alien prisoners watched the humans eat. Hana could see creatures with too many eyes, others that looked like giant insects, and some that seemed to be made of light instead of flesh. "What are they?" Hana asked, pointing to a group of tall, thin aliens with blue skin. "Luminars," Moran said. "They're made of energy. Don't get too close, they can shock you. And those?" Hana pointed to insects the size of humans. "Zith. They're smart but mean. They think other races are stupid." Hana watched the aliens with curiosity instead of fear. "They look sad," she said. "Sad?" Jiho laughed. "Kid, these are the worst criminals in the galaxy." "They're not sad, they're dangerous," but Hana kept watching. The aliens sat at their own tables just like the humans. They ate the same gray food and wore the same gray clothes. Some of them looked at the humans with the same fear that humans looked at them. After breakfast, the prisoners were allowed 1 hour of free time in the recreation area. Most humans stayed together in one corner, playing cards or talking. The aliens kept to their own groups. Hana walked around the big room looking at everything. Near the wall, she saw a group of the four-armed Kelthari warriors sitting in a circle. They were playing some kind of game with small stones. "Hey," one of them shouted when he saw her looking. "Little human. Stay away!" But Hana didn't run. She walked closer. "What game are you playing?" The largest Kelthari, who had to be bricks from the transport ship, stood up. He was 3 times taller than Hana and had muscles like steel cables. "This is Kelthari game. Humans too stupid to understand. Can you teach me?" Hana asked. The aliens looked shocked. No one had ever asked to learn their games before. "You want to learn?" Bricks asked. "Yes, please. It looks fun." Bricks looked at his friends, then back at Hana. Slowly, he sat down. "Okay, little human. But when you lose, don't cry." The game was called Stone Wars. Each player had to move stones across a board to capture the other player's pieces. It was like chess, but more complicated. Hana watched carefully as Bricks explained the rules. "Now you try," Bricks said. Hana made her first move, then her second. Bricks moved his stones to attack, but Hana saw the pattern and moved her pieces to safety. After 10 minutes, she had captured half of Bricks's stones. "How?" Bricks stared at the board. "How did you do that?" "I watched how you moved. You always attack the strongest piece first, but sometimes it's better to attack the weak pieces." The other Kelthari warriors gathered around to watch. Word spread quickly through the recreation area. Soon, prisoners from different species were coming to see the human child playing games with the warriors. "She's beating Bricks," someone whispered. "Impossible. Kelthari are the best at strategy games." But Hana won the game. Bricks looked at the board for a long time, then looked at Hana with new respect. "You are smart, little human. What is your name?" "Lee Hana. I am Bricks. I was a general in the Kelthari army before they locked me up. You play like a general too. Thank you. Can you teach me more games?" From that day, Hana's life in prison changed. During free time, she would visit different alien groups and ask about their games and stories. The Zith insects taught her number puzzles. The energy beings called Luminars showed her how they communicated with light patterns. Most of the aliens were surprised that a human child wanted to learn about their cultures. They had been in prison for years, and no one had ever shown interest in their homes or their people. "Tell me about your planet," Hana would say to a sad-looking alien. "Why do you want to know?" they would ask. "Because it sounds interesting. Is it different from Earth?" And slowly the aliens would talk. They told her about worlds with purple skies and silver trees. They described cities that floated in clouds and oceans made of liquid crystal. For a few minutes they could remember home instead of thinking about their crimes. The human prisoners were not happy about this. "What are you doing?" Miran asked Hana one day. "You're supposed to stay with humans." "But the aliens have interesting stories," Hana said. "They're dangerous." "So are humans. You told me you were in prison for killing people with poison." Miran's face turned red. "That was different. I was protecting my company. And Bricks was protecting his planet when he destroyed that moon. Everyone here was protecting something." Jiho came over to the conversation. "The kid has a point," he said. "Maybe they're not so different from us." But not everyone agreed. Park Dojin, the human smuggler with metal parts, was angry about Hana's behavior. "You're making us look weak," he told her. "Humans need to stick together in here. If the aliens think we're soft, they'll attack us." "But they haven't attacked anyone since I started talking to them," Hana pointed out. It was true. The prison guards had noticed that fights between different species had almost stopped. Usually there were several violent incidents every week. But in the month since Hana arrived, there had been only 2 small arguments. Warden Thex was confused by this change. He called his security chief, a mean-looking alien called Krex, to his office. "Why are the prisoners so quiet?" Thex asked. "It's the human child, Warden. She talks to everyone. The prisoners spend more time listening to her stories than fighting." "What kind of stories?" "She asks them about their homeworlds. Then she tells them about Earth. Simple things. What human children do, what food tastes like, what the sky looks like." Thex frowned. "This is not normal. Prisoners are supposed to hate each other. It makes them easier to control. Should we stop her?" "Not yet. But watch her carefully. Something is not right about this child." That night, Hana lay in her cell thinking about all the things she had learned. She knew which aliens were good at technology, which ones were strong fighters, and which ones were smart planners. She knew their weaknesses too. The Luminars got tired when they used too much energy. The Zith couldn't work well in bright light, and the Kelthari always followed their strongest leader. She also knew that every species in the prison had one thing in common. They all wanted to go home. Outside her window, the 3 dead stars continued to spin in space, holding the prison in their deadly grip. But Hana was starting to understand something that the guards didn't know. A prison was only as strong as the hate between its prisoners. And hate was just fear wearing a mask. If she could take away the fear, maybe she could take away the prison too. But first she needed to learn more about the station itself. And for that she would need help from someone who understood how machines worked. Tomorrow she would find Zhang Wuyong. Hana found Zhang Wuyong in the machine room during work time. He was small for his age, maybe 16, with oil stains on his hands and a sad look in his eyes. He was fixing a broken food machine while a guard watched him. "You're good with machines," Hana said when the guard walked away. Wuyong looked surprised. "You're the kid everyone talks about. Why are you here?" "I want to learn about the station. How does everything work?" "Why would you want to know that?" Hana sat down next to him. "Because I'm curious. On Earth, I like to take things apart to see how they worked. My mother was always angry when I broke her things." Wuyong smiled a little. "I used to do that too. That's how I learned to fix machines." His smile disappeared. "And how I caused the accident that killed all those people." "What happened?" "I was working on a space station's power system. I thought I was making it better, but I made a mistake. The whole station crashed into a planet. 20,000 people died. That must make you very sad. Every day." Wuyong wiped his hands on his clothes. "But why do you care? You're just a kid." "Being a kid doesn't mean I can't understand sadness. Can you show me how the prison works?" Over the next few weeks, Wuyong became Hana's teacher. During work time, she would help him fix machines while he explained how the station operated. She learned about the power systems, the air recycling, the gravity generators, and the communication networks. "The whole station is like a giant ship," Wuyong explained. "It has engines to keep it spinning, computers to control everything, and shields to protect it from the dead star's radiation." "What about the gravity that keeps ships from escaping?" Hana asked. "That's not from the station. That's from the 3 dead stars. They pull everything toward them. The station has special anchors that keep it in the right position, but the transport ships can come and go." "How?" Wuyong looked around to make sure no guards were listening. "They have special engines that can fight the gravity for a short time, but they use a lot of power. That's why ships can only stay here for a few hours." Hana nodded, storing this information in her memory. Meanwhile, her friendships with the alien prisoners grew stronger. During free time, she would sit with different groups and play their games. But the games were becoming more complex. She taught the Zith insects a number game she called pattern dancing. The goal was to work together to create mathematical sequences that grew bigger and bigger. The Zith loved it because they were good with numbers, but they had to learn to trust each other to make it work. With the Kelthari warriors, she played strategy circle. Each warrior had to plan a battle, but they could only win if all their plans worked together. Brix was amazed at how the game taught cooperation instead of competition. "This is not how warriors usually think," he told Hana. "We are taught to fight alone." "But when warriors fight together, they're stronger," Hana said. "Like my brother's army unit. They protect each other." "Your brother is a soldier?" "Yes, he fights on the Rim worlds against the rebels." "I miss him." Brix was quiet for a moment. "I have a daughter. She would be about your age now." "I miss her too." The Luminars were the hardest to befriend. They communicated with light patterns instead of words, and they thought other races were too slow to understand them. But Hana was patient. She sat with them for hours, watching their lights and trying to copy the patterns. One day, she managed to make a simple light pattern that meant hello in their language. The Luminars were so surprised that they stopped glowing for a full minute. "How did small human learn our speech?" asked their leader, whose name sounded like wind chimes. I watched and practiced. "Will you teach me more?" The Luminars had never been asked to teach their language before. Slowly, they began to show Hana more patterns. In return, she taught them simple human words. But the most important friendship was with Dr. Nam Hyejin, the prison's human psychologist. She was brought in to evaluate Hana after the guards noticed her unusual behavior. "Hello, Hana," Dr. Nam said during their first meeting. "I'm here to talk with you about how you're feeling." "I feel fine," Hana said. Are you afraid of the other prisoners? No, they're just people who made mistakes like me. Dr. Nam made notes on her tablet. Hana, you were accused of destroying a military defense network. That's a very serious crime. Do you understand what you did? I was trying to send a message to my brother. The military network had a backdoor that connected to the civilian communication system. I thought I could use it to reach him faster, but you ended up damaging the entire network. I know. I feel bad about that, but I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Dr. Nam studied Hana carefully. The girl seemed sincere, but her explanation revealed a deep understanding of computer networks that was unusual for a 12-year-old. Hana, how did you learn about computer systems? I taught myself. I like puzzles, and computer networks are like big puzzles. You have to figure out how all the pieces connect. Can you show me? Hana drew a picture on paper showing how different computer systems connected to each other. Dr. Nam recognized it as an accurate diagram of quantum communication. Networks, something that most adult scientists struggled to understand. This is very advanced, Dr. Nam said. Is it? It seems simple to me. Everything connects to everything else. You just have to see the patterns. After that meeting, Dr. Nam began visiting Hana every week. She was supposed to be evaluating the girl's mental health, but she found herself learning more than she was teaching. The other prisoners like you, Dr. Nam observed during one session. I like them too. They tell me interesting stories about their worlds. Aren't you afraid of them? Why should I be afraid? Fear comes from not understanding. When you understand someone, it's harder to be scared of them. As the weeks passed, strange things began happening around the prison. Small problems that seemed unimportant but happened in patterns. Lights in the hallways would flicker, but only in certain sections and only at specific times. Food machines would give out the wrong meals, but the mistakes followed mathematical sequences. Communication systems would have delays, but the delays spelled out number patterns when you mapped them. Warden Thex called his technical staff to investigate, find out what's causing these glitches, he ordered. But the technicians found nothing wrong. All the systems passed their diagnostic tests. The problem seemed random, but Thex had been running prisons for too long to believe in coincidences. It's the human child, he told Security Chief Krex. She's doing something. But how? She's just a kid and she's always watched. That's what worries me. If she can cause problems while being watched, what could she do if we're not paying attention? What they didn't know was that Hana wasn't causing the glitches directly. She was teaching other prisoners to cause them. During her games and lessons, she was showing them how to make small changes to the systems they worked with. Wu Yong learned how to make machines delay their operations in specific patterns. The Zith working in the computer rooms learned how to create tiny errors that looked like random glitches. The Luminars found ways to interfere with the electrical systems in ways that seemed accidental. None of the changes were dangerous or obvious, but together they created a map of the station's weaknesses. It's like music, Hana explained to a group of prisoners during free time. Each person plays one note, but together we make a song. What kind of song? Asked Brix. A song about going home. The alien prisoners looked at each other. No one had talked about escape before because everyone knew it was impossible. But the way Hana said it made it sound possible, even easy. Little human, said the Luminar leader. What do you know about going home that we do not? Hana smiled. I know that every prison has a key. You just have to know where to look for it. That night, Warden Thex couldn't sleep. He walked through the prison hallways, listening to the sounds of the station. Everything seemed normal, but he felt like something was watching him. In her cell, Hana was drawing on the foggy window again. But this time, she wasn't drawing pictures of stars and ships. She was drawing a map of the station's power systems, using all the information she had learned from Wu Yong and the other prisoners. She had been in Void Spire Station for 3 months now. In that time, she had made friends with dozens of prisoners from 12 different species. She had learned their languages, their skills, and their dreams of home. More importantly, she had learned their strengths, and now she was ready to teach them something new. She was ready to teach them how to work together. It was Nayan who first understood what Hana was really doing. Nayan had been a military strategist before her capture, and she knew how to read the patterns of war. She found Hana in the recreation area, teaching a mixed group of aliens and humans a new game called Stardance. The players had to coordinate their moves to create a complex pattern that looked like stars moving through space. That's not a game. Nayeon said quietly when the session ended. That's a military exercise. Hana looked up at her with innocent eyes. What do you mean? I mean, you've been training these prisoners to work together like soldiers.
Every game you've taught them has been about coordination, timing, and trust. Nayeon sat down next to Hana. She was in her 30s with sharp eyes and scars on her hands from old battles.
I planned military operations for the Earth Defense Force. I know tactical training when I see it. Maybe you're seeing things that aren't there, Hana said. Am I? Let's see. You taught the Zith number patterns that match guard rotation schedules. You showed the Kelthari battle formations that would work perfectly in these hallways. You trained the Luminars to coordinate their light patterns for communication across long distances. Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. You're very smart. And you're not just a 12-year-old girl who made a mistake, are you? I am 12. And I did make a mistake, but maybe I learned something from it. Nayeon looked around the recreation area. Everywhere she looked, she could see prisoners from different species talking together, working together, trusting each other. A month ago, they would have been sitting in separate groups watching each other with suspicion. How many of them know what you're really planning? Nayeon asked. Some suspect. But they trust me now, so they'll follow even if they don't understand. Follow you where? Hana pointed toward the ceiling, toward the stars beyond. Home. That night, Nayeon lay in her cell thinking about what Hana had revealed. An escape from Void Spire Station was impossible. The 3 dead stars made sure of that. But as she thought about all the things Hana had taught the prisoners, she began to see how the pieces might fit together. The next day, she found Hana again. I want to help, she said. Help with what? Don't play games with me, kid. I know you're planning something big, and if you're really going to try to get these people home, you'll need someone who understands military planning. Hana studied Nayeon's face for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, but first you have to understand something. This isn't about breaking out of prison. This is about something much bigger. What do you mean? I mean that half the prisoners in this place don't belong here. They were sent here by corrupt judges, or because they knew too much about government secrets, or because they tried to help people the wrong way. Nayeon frowned. How do you know that? Because I listened to their stories. Really listen. And I'm good at seeing patterns. Over the following weeks, Hana began to share her real plan with a small group of trusted prisoners. Besides Nayeon, there was Woo Young, who understood the station's systems. There was Oh Seonghwa, a former child soldier who had become a resistance fighter. There was Jung Dae-hyun, a ship engineer who had been imprisoned for refusing to build weapons for a dictator. The plan has 3 parts, Hana explained during a secret meeting in the machine room. First, we take control of the station. Second, we escape the gravity well. Third, we prove that most of us don't belong here. That's impossible, Dae-hyun said. Even if we could take the station, we can't escape the dead stars. Actually, we can, Hana said. Woo Young figured it out. The 3 stars create the gravity well, right? But if we destabilize one of them, the whole system changes. Destabilize a star. Seonghwa looked shocked. That would destroy everything in the system. Not destroy. Change. If we use the station's power systems to create a resonance pulse, we can make one of the dead stars spin faster. That will change the gravity pattern and create a window where ships can escape. Where did you learn about stellar mechanics? Nayeon asked. I read a lot, Hana said simply, and I'm good at understanding how systems work. Woo Young pulled out diagrams of the station's power grid. It could work, he said slowly, but we'd need to coordinate every system on the station at exactly the same time, and we'd need every prisoner to play their part perfectly. That's why I've been teaching them to work together, Hana said. They trust each other now. More importantly, they trust me. But even if we escape, Dae-hyun said, where would we go? We're still criminals, Hana smiled. That's the 3rd part of the plan. My brother Taewon isn't just a soldier. He's an intelligence officer. When I tried to send him that message, I wasn't just saying hello. I was sending him evidence of corruption in the hegemony government. What kind of evidence? Information about illegal trials. Fake evidence, prisoners who were sent here to keep them quiet. I found it all when I was in the military network. The group stared at her. Nayeon was the first to speak. You're saying you were arrested not for accidentally breaking the network, but for exposing government crimes? Yes, and they sent me here hoping I would just disappear. But I won't disappear, and neither will any of you. As the plan developed, Hana began to reveal different parts to different groups of prisoners. She told the Keltari warriors that they would lead the attack on the guards. She showed the Zith how to take control of the computer systems. She taught the Luminars how to overload the power grid in a controlled way. Each species thought they were just helping with a small part of a bigger plan. None of them knew how all the pieces fit together except for Hana and her inner circle. But Warden Thex was getting suspicious. The strange glitches in the station's systems were becoming more frequent and more complex. And the prisoners were acting differently, too cooperative, too organized. Something is happening, he told Security Chief Krex. The prisoners are planning something. Should we separate them? Put the troublemakers in isolation? No. If we do that, we'll tip them off that we know. Instead, we watch and wait. When they make their move, we'll be ready. But Thex made a mistake. He assumed that the prisoners were planning a normal escape attempt, maybe taking hostages or trying to steal a transport ship. He didn't understand that Hana was thinking on a completely different level. The night before the escape, Hana called a meeting of her core team. They gathered in the machine room after lights out, speaking in whispers. Tomorrow changes everything, she said. Are you ready? The question is, are you ready? Nayeon asked. You've been carrying this plan in your head for months. Tomorrow you have to let it go and trust everyone else to do their parts. I trust them, Hana said. They want to go home as much as I do. And if it doesn't work? Seonghwa asked. Then we'll still be better off than we are now. At least we'll have tried. Woo Young checked his watch. The guard shift changes in 6 hours. That's when we start. As they prepared to leave, Daehyun put his hand on Hana's shoulder. Kid, I still don't understand how you planned all this. You're 12 years old. Hana looked up at him with those same innocent eyes that had fooled Warden Thex months ago. Adults always make things too complicated, she said. Sometimes the best plans are the simple ones. What she didn't tell him was that her plan wasn't simple at all. It was the most complex operation ever attempted in Voidspire Station. But she had learned something important about leadership. People would follow you into impossible situations if they believed you knew the way. And Hana did know the way. She had been studying it for months, learning from every prisoner, understanding every system, mapping every weakness. Tomorrow, she would find out if a 12-year-old girl could outsmart the most secure prison in the galaxy. Tomorrow, she would teach the universe that no one, not even the youngest prisoner in history, should be underestimated. Tomorrow they would all go home. The escape began during the morning guard shift change, just as Hana had planned. She sat in her cell, drawing on the foggy window like she did every morning. But today her drawing was different. Today she drew a star pattern that meant now in the Luminar language. Across the prison, prisoners who had learned to watch for her signals saw the pattern. Within minutes, the plan was in motion. In the computer center, the Zith prisoners began their work for the day. But instead of running normal maintenance, they started uploading programs they had memorized from Hana's number games. The programs looked like routine system checks, but they were actually taking control of the station's security systems. In the power plant, Luminar prisoners began to glow brighter than usual. The guards thought they were just excited about something. But the Luminars were actually building up electrical energy to overload the main power grid at exactly the right moment. In the human section, former soldiers like Seonghwa and Nayeon began gathering improvised weapons. They had spent weeks figuring out how to turn everyday objects into tools for fighting. And in the machine room, Woo Young put his hands on the master control panel and waited for Hana's signal. Everything depended on timing. The plan would only work if every group acted at exactly the same moment. Too early, and the guards would have time to respond. Too late, and the security systems would lock down the station. Hana counted the seconds in her head. She had been practicing this moment for weeks, imagining every detail. When the count reached 0, she stood up and walked to her cell door. Guard, she called out in a small, scared voice. There's something wrong with my toilet. It's making scary noises. The guard, a bored-looking human named Peterson, walked over to her cell. What kind of noises? Like this, Hana said, and she made a sound that was actually a signal in the Kelthari warrior language. It meant attack. In the recreation area, Brix heard the signal and roared. 400 pounds of angry Kelthari warrior came charging across the room, followed by a dozen of his clan brothers. The alien guards were so surprised that they forgot to draw their weapons. In the computer center, the Zith finished uploading their programs. Every security camera in the station suddenly went dark. All the electronic locks opened at once. Emergency alarms started blaring, but instead of calling for help, they played Hana's voice singing a children's song. In the power plant, the luminars released all their stored energy at once. The lights went out across the entire station, then came back on in the pulsing pattern that meant freedom in every alien language. And in the machine room, Wu Young activated the station's main engines. But instead of keeping the station in its stable orbit, he began pushing it toward one of the dead stars. Warden Thex was in his office when the chaos began. He heard the alarms, saw the lights flashing, and felt the station shaking as the engines fired. "What's happening?" he shouted into his communicator. "Prisoner revolt, sir," came the panicked reply. "They've taken the computer center, the power plant, and the armory. We've lost contact with most guard stations." "How is that possible?" "What about the security systems?" "They're not responding, sir. Someone has taken control of them." Thex looked out his window toward the prisoner blocks. He could see lights flashing in complex patterns, too complex to be random. Someone was coordinating this rebellion like a military operation. "It's the human child," he said suddenly. "She's been planning this." Security Chief Krex burst into the office. "Sir, we need to evacuate. The prisoners have control of the weapon systems and they're pointing them at the guard quarters." "No," Thex said firmly. "This is my station. I'm not leaving." But even as he spoke, he could feel the station moving. The artificial gravity fluctuated as the engines pushed them out of their stable orbit. Through his window, he could see one of the dead stars getting larger. "Sir, they're flying us into the star. We'll all be killed." "Then stop them." "We can't, sir. They've locked us out of all the systems." Down in the prisoner sections, the rebellion was proceeding exactly as Hana had planned. Human prisoners led by Nayeon had taken the armory and were distributing weapons to the alien prisoners. But instead of using the weapons to fight the guards, they were using them to disable the station's defensive systems. "Remember," Nayeon called out, "we're not here to hurt anyone. We're here to go home." The Kelthari warriors had cornered a group of guards in the main hallway, but instead of attacking them, Brix made an announcement. "Guards of the station," he said in his booming voice, "we do not wish to harm you. Lay down your weapons and go to your quarters. When this is over, you will not be hurt." Most of the guards were so confused by this unexpected mercy that they actually obeyed. They had been trained to fight violent prisoners, not to deal with a polite revolution. In the computer center, the Zith were working frantically to maintain control of the station's systems. Their insect minds were perfectly suited for handling multiple complex tasks at once. "Power levels steady," reported one Zith in its clicking language. "Navigation on course. Communications blocked." "How long until stellar impact?" asked another. 17 minutes. "The star's gravity will tear us apart in 15 minutes unless the plan works." Down in the machine room, Wu Young was swearing as he tried to make the station's engines do something they were never designed to do. The power levels were rising beyond safe limits and warning lights were flashing everywhere. "Come on," he muttered. "Just a little more power?" He pushed the engines harder, sending the station racing toward the dead star. But this wasn't suicide. It was the most dangerous part of Hana's plan. As the station approached the dead star, its massive gravity began to pull on the other two stars in the system. The careful balance that had held the three stars in position for millions of years began to shift. One of the dead stars started spinning faster, just as Hana had predicted. The change in its rotation created ripples in the gravitational field that held the prison. For exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds, there would be a window in the gravity well. A gap where ships could escape, but first they had to survive getting that close to a dead star. The station shook violently as stellar radiation battered its shields. Metal creaked and groaned under forces it was never meant to handle. In the prisoner sections, aliens and humans worked together to keep the life support systems running. Hull integrity at 60%. Someone shouted, "Radiation shields failing! Gravity generators offline." But the prisoners didn't panic. Hana had taught them to work together, and now their cooperation was the only thing keeping them alive. Warden Thex stumbled through the shaking corridors, trying to reach the command center. When he finally arrived, he found Hana sitting calmly in the commander's chair, watching the dead star grow larger on the main screen. "You," he said, pointing at her with a shaking finger. "You did this. Yes, Hana said simply. You're going to kill us all. No, I'm going to save us all. On the screen, the dead star filled their view. Its surface was a twisted landscape of collapsed matter and deadly radiation. No living thing could survive on such a world. But something else was happening. The gravitational disturbance Hana had created was having exactly the effect she had predicted. The other two dead stars were being pulled out of position, and the gravity well that trapped ships was collapsing. Now, Hana said into the communicator. In the docking bay, Jung Daehyun and his team had been working frantically to prepare every ship in the station for launch. Transport ships, guard vessels, even maintenance pods, anything that could carry people through space. As the gravity well collapsed, the ships launched all at once. Hundreds of vessels carrying thousands of prisoners shot out into space, free for the first time in years. But Hana wasn't on any of those ships. She stayed in the command center with Warden Thex, watching as her friends escaped. Why? Thex asked. Why didn't you leave with them? Because this was never about escaping, Hana said. This was about proving something. Proving what? That most of the people in your prison don't belong here. As if summoned by her words, new ships appeared on the screen. A fleet of military vessels led by a massive battlecruiser. On the side of the battlecruiser was written, Earth Defense Force Admiral Kim Tae-won. My brother, Hana said with a smile. The fleet surrounded the escaping prison ships, but they didn't attack. Instead, they formed a protective formation around them. Admiral Tae-won's voice came over the communicator. This is Admiral Kim Tae-won of the Earth Defense Force. I am here to negotiate the legal status of the escaped prisoners. How did you know to come here? Thex asked weakly. Hana pulled out a small device she had hidden in her clothes. I've been recording everything since I arrived. Every illegal trial, every corrupt sentence, every prisoner who was sent here to keep them quiet. My brother has been investigating the hegemony's justice system for months. This was all planned? Not all of it. I really did make a mistake when I tried to contact my brother. But when they arrested me, instead of investigating the corruption I found, I realized I had to do something bigger. The truth was overwhelming. Hana hadn't been sent to prison for breaking the defense network. She had been sent there because she had discovered evidence of massive corruption in the hegemony government.